How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Aristil.
And Venurian, and no Volcel.
Yeah, he's off seeing the Konosuba movie this week. It was pre-planned, but you get the Frog and Librarian show this week.
Yeah,
this is the most awkward dynamic we have.
Yeah. So Vol was kind of sitting on the fence, saying, "Oh, I should go, or maybe I should stay for the show." I just told him, "No, go." It's unfortunately because of where we are in the world, both Vol and I, particularly myself, but we don't get that sort of thing very often, and it's very important to actually support them when they come by.
That was the justification he gave us anyway. In reality, he just really wanted to go see the Konosuba movie.
There is also that fact, but honestly, that's the justification I'm giving as well. That is very important. If you see something you like, you've got to support it.
I don't doubt he genuinely believes that's his reason for going to see it. I don't doubt for a second that's what he thinks. That is not the reason he went to go see the Konosuba movie. He went to go see the Konosuba movie because he wanted to go see Aqua fall upside down and fall on her face and get eaten by frogs.
It is what she does. With kind of alarming regularity, actually.
Or something of that nature.
Yeah. So we shall hear all about that next week. Honestly, I wish I could watch it as well, but that's not happening.
Yeah, it's been a week.
I guess. A week is something you can definitely call it.
Politics seemed to be the big thing eating this week in the US. It was a very busy week for politics.
Yeah. I've said it before, the US election system is really dumb.
It didn't used to be this clown showy. I mean, it's gotten pretty clown showy before, but we've reached peak clown showiness.
Yep. And besides, have you actually reached a point where there is any part of the cycle where you are not in election mode?
Like, 1 year after a president gets elected, we have a reprieve now. It was actually incredibly early this year that it started last year. Normally, it doesn't start until January of the election year. That used to be, the whole time I was growing up, that's when election season started.
Yeah.
They would get the ball rolling early January that year, and Iowa caucuses would come around sometime in late mid-February, and then that would be the first primary, and they'd start whittling down the whichever party or parties need to find delegates one candidate at a time.
Right.
But this past year, Trump has just put everybody into clown show mode, and we have the funniest election cycle that started a whole year early.
Well, let's face it, it did not take much pushing to get into clown show mode.
No. Trump plus the internet. I only give Trump half credit for this. The internet making information available to the layman is the other half.
Yep.
Where people can just check stuff for themselves, and they don't have to listen to what the television tells them. Has totally thrown a monkey wrench. It's thrown a monkey wrench into the establishment that they cannot dislodge. Like, that wrench is now stuck. And so that they are in total meltdown mode, and what this leads to is the clown show that we see.
Fun.
So, from every angle, it's been hilarious in politics this week. It's been more hilarious if you fall on the right, but it's still been pretty funny if you're a moderate or a lefty. Because everybody has been doing something stupid.
Yep.
And it's just been the best.
Something stupid is pretty much the name of the game when it comes to elections. Anywho.
Yep.
On the screen today, I'm actually playing a bit of Viscera Cleanup Detail. I have no idea why. It just seemed like a good idea at the time, I guess.
Yep.
So, I get to clean up disembodied body parts, and yes, the aftermath of what was possibly a much more interesting shooter beforehand.
I see. I do not know this game.
That's pretty much the idea, is you're a janitor, and you move in after a first-person shooter character has come through. And clean up the mess.
I see.
Or in one DLC's case, Santa.
I see.
Yeah. That was a thing that happened. All right. Anyway, so weeks. I don't have a huge amount to talk about this week. It's been a fairly chill one. Let me think. Games I've actually played this week would probably be just the Universim. It came up on sale, and it's been a game I've been looking at for a while, so I figured, why not? Basically, it is a very hands-off God game. You're given a planet, and you're given people called nuggets. And they look like kind of like chicken nuggets with floaty hands and heads. That's about it.
Okay.
They're about as dumb as bricks, as you might expect.
Uh-huh.
But, you just kind of guide them through from the Stone Age all the way up to, I think it goes up to... you don't actually get to colonize another planet, but you do get to launch lunar rockets.
Okay, so you get them caught up to the 1940s. Or 1960s.
Probably closer to the 1990s. The game is still in development, so there is... I'm not exactly sure where they're going to stop it, if they're going to let you actually land on the moon or something like that.
Well, if you land on the moon... We landed on the moon in 1969, right?
Yeah. I believe that was it.
Yeah. So you'll almost be at the 70s.
Yeah.
The next X-Pack and DLC is the Disco expansion.
Oh, good grief. That's probably actually a thing. The game does have a rather dark sense of humor. The first thing you'll notice is it does have a narrator who, if you just sit there and do nothing, he will just start making snide comments at you. He also gets rather snippy with you if you happen to even glance at a habitat where your nuggets are making more nuggets.
I see.
So yes, that's not the sort of thing you should be looking at. But all in all, it's a very chill game. I haven't run into any major bugs with it at this point, or any real gripes. It is a little bit reminiscent of maybe smaller scale Black and White, given just how much space you get to play with. I believe you also actually get into wars with other factions that pop up. I've had the other factions turn up, but I haven't kind of reached the point where they're even remotely dangerous. The most dangerous thing I've run into is either my incompetence or wolves.
Wolves can eat your nuggets?
Wolves can eat your nuggets. Wolves like nuggets.
Well, I can attest that doggies do like chicken nuggets.
Doggies certainly like chicken nuggets. Chicken nuggets don't necessarily like doggies, though.
I work right next to a Chick-fil-A, basically. It's just around the corner. Right. So the most common stop for lunch, if I just need something quick, is I will go up to the Chick-fil-A and I'll get a chicken sandwich, just the sandwich with no meal on it, and just get a small thing of chicken nuggets.
Yep.
My boss's dog lives in the office. And she's a husky, and she'll come up to me whenever I come back with Chick-fil-A, and I never give her any. I've given her one like once ever, and she'll just stare at me like, "You got to give me a chicken nugget."
This is the rules. You've got to give a chicken nugget to the doggo.
His doggo is way too pampered and too used to getting its way, and I'm the only person that doesn't let it get its way. So I feel like on moral principles, I have to make sure that doggy has somebody in its life that doesn't give it everything at once.
Yeah. Back during the building certification days, whenever I had to do a run between towns, I'd always drop into McDonald's on the way through, and I would have my doggo with me, coming here, because it was usually come down for the weekend, visit my folks. I realised that was coming an option, first and foremost because she would always expect and indeed demand a chicken nugget. But when the McDonald's drive-thru ladies were recognising her by name, that may have been a sign I was taking her there too often.
Well.
Yeah, they didn't know my name, although the coffee counter lady did, but they certainly knew Sora, the dog.
Oh, good doggo.
She is very fluffy and an absolute scatterbrain. Border collies.
Man, I'm trying to get Shadow, my dog, to release the Iowa caucus results. He has been holding them up. The app that they used to count the votes was run by a company called Shadow. So I've been joking all week that my doggo has the Iowa caucus results, and no amount of bribery will get him to give them to me.
He is the goodest boy then.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Anyway, so that's that. I'll probably play that on the stream next week. I'm not sure why I decided not to this week, but reasons. Really, that's about it for my stuff this week, aside from just derping around playing random things with a bunch of friends. I did fire up a rather odd game called Dreadnought, which is about spaceship combat. Very large, very slow, ponderous spaceships. But for some reason, you always fly these giant war machines of spacey death in city environments or mines or something like that. You're not using them in space, except maybe for one map. It's always on a planet, and you're always weaving between buildings. It is a very odd thing.
Mm-hmm.
The game itself is fun enough. It's basically the usual thing of here is a map, here is team on one side, team on the other, go do a thing, repeat. Honestly, I'm not sure how people can play those games over and over again, because I get bored after a bit of a lap. But, there's nothing really to say about it. It is a neat game. It looks very pretty. It uses kind of the World of Tanks mode, where you start off with kind of crap ships, and just through use of them, you work your way up. Assuming, of course, you don't fork over money. Because it is always money. It only has a very small player base, though. It's only usually about 200 people online at any given time. That didn't necessarily stop us getting games. It just meant we were fighting the same people over and over again. Really, that's about it for my week. I've only just been keeping up with animes, and there's been nothing really of note to talk about there either.
And I'm not the anime dude anymore.
Yeah. I will say, at least for Hero Arca, at least after the last arc where everything was super serious business, it looks like they're going for a more lighter, sillier arc this time, which is kind of nice.
It looks like a setup arc for future stuff, which is fine. I haven't got to. I'm about 2 or 3 weeks behind on it.
Yep.
So I watched the first episode of the new arc whenever it started. Whenever the headphone jack girl, what's her name?
Juno.
Yeah, whenever she got the prime billing in the intro, I saw that for one episode, so that's how far back away I am. So however long they've had that intro is how many episodes behind I am, -1.
Yeah, so that's only been a couple of weeks. From the intro, it looks like they're setting up for a school carnival arc. From what's actually going on, it's essentially the edgier, louder, the dropouts actually, being angry at children in this latest episode. So that's always fun.
Oh joy. Did you ever have school festivals or school carnivals that were set up by the students?
We had a school fete, and for the most part, the students' contribution was you go out and you set up chairs the day before, and then you bring them back in the day after. And beyond that, you donate things like cakes, which basically means you bother your parents to make a cake out of a packet, or a jar, or something like that. Cheap, crappy raffle prizes.
Because I never had anything like this, except for 1 year, and I'll tell that story maybe in a little bit. But
yep,
the idea of the school festival is fairly foreign to me, because the logistics at a school with 4,000 people in it on a tiny campus, it doesn't work.
No, that would be interesting.
So we never had it. We had it 1 year. We had a school fair 1 year, and the reason we had it was because some gung-ho weeb girl got elected to student council president and really, really wanted one because it was in her Japanese animus.
Of course.
And this was her pitch. when she was running for student council, and because nobody at a school of 4,000 kids cares who's on the student council because they can't do anything with that many kids in the way. Logistics just break every idea you might have as a student council president.
Yep. Well,
this was her one thing she ran on.
Yeah, at the end of the day is all the student council pitches I ever heard was, oh, we want to put Coke in the water fountains and no homework for anyone.
Yeah.
That's about as complex as they got.
To be fair, she did put on a pretty fun school fair, though. She got giant. She took the football field because we had our own football field, and just put up giant inflatable junk and play places all over it that were absolutely ginormous.
That sounds actually kind of cool.
And she set up like a tent with like video game consoles in it and portable TVs outside. So she went full ham with it.
Damn, yeah.
And I don't know how she got the money from the teachers to do this.
Wheedling. Possibly blackmail.
Probably because she couldn't afford to do anything else because logistics got in the way, so she had a huge budget to play with.
Yeah. Like, the school fete is it's a tradition in Australia, so every school will do it to some degree, largely because it doubles up as both a social event and a major fundraising thing. Like, for the states-run schools, it's pretty much the only way they can actually afford extracurricular equipment. Like, whenever they need new sports gear or something like that. Because the government sure ain't going to pay for it, because you need to have your reasoning signed in triplicate by, Cthulhu. But for the private schools, that's just essentially the same thing. It's just a bigger fundraising thing. But in their case, it's also a way to wheedle money out of parents in a bit more of a blatant way.
Oh, they blackmailed us in middle school to get money out of our parents.
Good times.
Yeah. Okay, kids, here's the deal. There's going to be a BMX bike show outside, right in the parking lot. But if you don't sell enough stuff from this catalog, you got to go sit in the orchestra room and be in study hall for 4 hours.
Oh, I remember that sort of thing.
And it was blatant blackmail. Like, it was, you give us money or we're going to punish you.
Yeah.
But it was just skirting the line legally enough where they could get away with it.
Yep.
And the parents, after the bike show was over, came down like a sack of bricks on the school and said they pulled all extra funding, basically. Every parent cut any additional funds they were going to give to the school. And the school was like, uh-oh, maybe we shouldn't have blackmailed the parents.
Yeah, you think?
Well, it was the kids that were getting punished, but
yeah,
the parents that are going to give money to the school as part of the regular donation are the people that care about their kid not being blackmailed.
Yes.
So
yeah, extracurricular stuff, because I came up through, rural schools and things like that. Extracurricular was basically either you do a sports, and it was you do a sports, that's pretty much it, or the occasional, what we used to call the Arts Council, where it was some government-funded production that was ultimately probably more embarrassing for the people who were performing it than the people watching it, but only just. But the reason people only ever went to these things, not because they're actually as good, is because they got you out of class for half a day.
Yeah.
Like, it was things like, here is this really cringy, embarrassing play about why smoking is bad.
Oh, I remember the 90s Dare commercials?
We didn't have
and the
those.
plays. Oh, y'all didn't have those? Oh, I guess that was a U.S. only thing. DARE was a federal government program, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we did have similar sort of things, and they were equally terrible. But, I'm not exactly sure why or, honestly, how they roped these poor people into doing these performances. Presumably money and or copious amounts of alcohol.
Yeah.
Because, oh boy. They weren't there for their acting credentials.
Yeah, our extracurricular stuff was, if you can find 3 people and a teacher that'll sponsor it, you can have your club. You're not getting any money, though.
You can go and do your anime watching club if you so choose.
Oh, we had Military History Club as the Yu-Gi-Oh! Club. We just kind of took it over.
You just ate it.
There were like 3 people there from military history, and the teacher was just kind of cool with us hanging out there. So we just sat in his trailer and would play card games. And we took over like half that trailer. And he just kind of sat and played ward games with the Warhammer and crap with the military history people.
See, this is where one of those cultural things just comes up, because you saying that you're having your military history in a trailer paints an entirely different image than probably what was reality.
Oh no, it was a box, a metal box, because our school was not big enough for the 4,000 kids.
Yep.
So it was a literal trailer, just a cargo bin, shipping container that you would see at like a dock or a loading bay going onto a ship or a boat.
Oh, that's actually probably worse.
Yeah, there's no bathroom or rooms or carpet. It's just a metal box.
You're just in this shipping container.
Yeah, no windows, just 2 doors, a box, and an El Cheapo air conditioner cut into the wall.
That may or may not work.
Yeah, that usually didn't.
Yeah, I know the type. Oh, good times, good times.
Yeah, our athletes never had to want for anything though, because the city I'm a part of is I went to a county called Gwinnett County, and in this county there's a city called Buford.
Yeah.
And Buford has a high school that regularly sends players from its football team to the NFL because they have like some super duper MLG Pro high school football coach. Okay. And this was the pride and joy of Gwinnett County and their education system and their contribution to society. So any sports activities got all the funding.
Yeah.
The chess club was also allowed to go to national competitions, but could only go if they qualified, and they had to pay their own way to get up there.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I did do the debates team for a few years as a kid, and that got interesting. We didn't go very far, though, because I think we had to doing a tournament in the next town over, and that was about it.
We had my best friend in high school was the state champion for chess and a national contender.
Yep.
And he was dang chess prodigy. And when he was in chess club, and we would play Yu-Gi-Oh instead of practicing chess.
As you do.
As we do, and we got thrown out of chess club. After he had already won the state championship. And so when all these people showed up to interview him, they were going to the chess club trailer like, what happened? Chess club disbanded.
Yeah.
Oh, where are they all now? Oh, they're all in the military history club. So we had a bunch of people one day. We had a bunch of people one day just come in and start asking him a bunch of questions about chess. And we're like, yeah, the teacher was a jerk. He kicked us out because we wouldn't practice chess. Because, like, Matt's already going to win. He's already as good as he's going to get. He's not going to get better by playing against us. We just showed up to cheer him on. And then play Yu-Gi-Oh afterwards.
Oh, dear. So yeah, nostalgia for, I'm not going to say better times, certainly times.
Different, younger times.
Younger times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, coming up through the public school system, particularly out in rural Australia, if you wanted to actually succeed in anything, you kind of had to just go out and do it yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was here if you didn't want to do sports.
Yeah, likewise.
Sports was catered to. Everything else was figure it out yourself.
Yeah. So the teachers kind of got annoyed when I basically taught myself the information technology curricula maybe 4 years ahead of when I should have been. But, you know, that happens.
I taught myself a basic web design in my before I even went to web design class, but it was a prereq to get into some other class I wanted to take in high school.
Yeah.
And I would just sleep through that guy's class.
And he
would get really frustrated because I would do these projects that were supposed to take the whole class a whole week to do in like half a day and then go back to sleep.
Yep.
And I would do it just like the book said and do it perfect because it was just literally follow the instructions.
Yeah.
But I was already familiar with everything. This is the same teacher that put the picture of me in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution up on the overhead projector and said, so why do you look like you're going to kill somebody?
No reason. No reason. Yeah.
That's a callback to a show from many weeks ago.
Yes. My IT classes were usually the teachers getting up and said, "Okay, we need to do today. We're doing this." And just 5 minutes later, I'd have it done. It was
My
usually
favorite class.
a lot of it was the very absolute basic stuff, like we're going to learn how to do a basic spreadsheet in Excel.
Yeah, that was what they called multimedia in ours. And me and a bunch of the people from the old Ventrilo server that came from my real life group were in this multimedia class all together. And we just would all finish right away in like 5 minutes whenever she gave an assignment. But there'd be like 15, CP level, people who didn't understand La Computadora.
La Computadora.
Because, this was like 2006, 2007. Home computers were still not a thing that everybody just kind of knew.
Yep.
So this is how my copy of Warcraft 3, the original, foreshadowing, got spread around the entire high school, is because we would just play Dota all day in multimedia instead of doing what we were supposed to do. Because we just finish it in 5 minutes and be like, okay, back to Dota.
Yeah.
We had a full 10 people in that class to play Dota one time.
Nice. Not really for the school, but I mean, nice for you guys.
Yeah, 10 screens playing Warcraft 3. The teacher did not give a crap. She was a super nice lady who just looked at us like, that's an interesting thing they are doing. Why are they in this class? Oh, right, they need it for a prereq for something.
Yeah.
Okay, back to reading my book.
Yeah, I'll just take a nap.
Yeah, Georgia education was not well known. We were ranked 48th in the country at one point, I think, out of 50 states. My county was in the top 10% of counties in the U.S. My state, not so much.
That's rather telling, that is. Alright, so that tangented interestingly. I'm going to call my week there then.
Alright, I was mostly feeding it for padding because I'm not sure how much we can tangent with the two of us.
Yeah, well, from that, we can tangent just fine.
Yep. Vol is the one that does the tangenting and the long-winded monologues.
Yes.
So we're time filling wherever we can here. So it's going to be a padding heavy show.
Yep. Oh well.
So I guess we'll jump into my week then.
Do it.
I had a very busy week. I felt like I was getting up just to go and work and tell people to shut up and leave me alone. And they would keep trying to give me new junk to do, but I've still got a mountain of work to do because I just had to keep telling them, I don't have time right now. I'm too busy. I got too many important jobs to get done.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Whatever it is, whoever the customer is, they can wait a minute, or you can find somebody else to go fill out this form. Because I've got to get this MARTA job done mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And we had another job we're doing in the Virgin Islands, which are islands, obviously.
Doy.
I would assume, but this also means our liaison is not local. And the guy who is in contact with this job, that got the job for the company, isn't with the company anymore.
Oh,
so I have to get him to pick up the phone every time he puts something in the system selector, because part of the agreement when he quit, or when he got fired, to get his last paycheck was, you have got to finish this job. And he he obviously doesn't care anymore. And he will just slap stuff into the system creator in our supplier's website that doesn't meet the specs from the engineer.
Ooh.
And I've had to fact check whatever he's given me and get in touch with the engineer who's currently in charge of the job and compare notes and go, yeah, he messed that up. Before I send you submittal data, I need to clean this up a little bit. And this has happened for every facet of this job.
Yeah.
Where I've been on the phone with the engineer, like, I got a piece of submittal data I can send you, but I need to check it because the guy who was working with us to get in touch with you is an idiot. He's not with us, and we fired him because he's an idiot.
Excellent.
Like, the guy was so incompetent that he got fired. He's one of the few people that has gotten fired at that job. but this job has been going for like 3 or 4 years. But we're in the actual, they need submittal data to start building the thing and, you know, write invoices to them to pay for the parts you're sending phase of the job now. So that's been a mess. MARTA is a mess. MARTA is always a mess because MARTA is a government job.
Yep, so by default, it's a mess.
At least I'm the one who's in contact with all the people on that job, so I don't have to go through a third party to get in touch with anybody. I can just call whoever's currently in charge of whatever department at the MARTA office and be like, I need to speak to whoever's doing engineering for whatever address this thing's at.
Sure.
and we can figure it out from there. I tell you what, though, these people being stubborn and not liking text messaging has been a real boon working in the particular industry I've been working in. Because all these dinosaur age engineers hate text messaging. They hate email. But they're like, it's so nice to have a young person that can just pick up the telephone and ask what they want to ask instead of have to weasel their way around text.
Yep. You lose a lot just if you're sending it in text.
Well, you lose tone. No matter who you are, you lose tone.
Yeah.
And if you're in sales, the number one thing you don't want to lose is tone.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how you get somebody to keep listening.
Yeah, you send
especially
an
when
email that looks a little, even slightly salesy, and it's deleted.
They're gone.
It's gone.
But you call somebody up and be like, hey, I heard this job's going on at this location. I was sent the engineering specifications, and I can sell you the pumps y'all need for this. You just gotta, you know, give me the go-ahead, and we can start working together, and I can give you a quote if you want. And we'll see if it's our price beats out whoever else is quoting you. And that usually works and gets you the job because nobody else is taking the initiative to call these people and go, hey, I see you're doing a big job. Let me get you a quote before they even have the time to go look for somebody. Because if you just beat out everybody else and they don't have to take the time and effort to go call somebody to give them a quote themselves, they're not going to. Because it saves them time and money. Well, it saves them time mostly. Like, oh yeah, sure, send us a quote. And they'll just take whatever you quote them.
Huh.
Because it saves them work. They don't got to call anybody if you hunt down the jobs that are in your area and call people up instead. Instead of waiting and hoping they call you.
Yeah.
But that's work and effort, and that takes time.
Yep.
And people,
none of which people are willing to give up anymore.
Yeah. It really is amazing just how many people just show up to get through to 5 o'clock instead of trying to do their job right.
Yeah.
If more people just focused on doing their job the best they could, like, people would be way more successful than they can possibly imagine.
Yeah, but when you're in a position that, or in a job rather, you just simply just don't give a crap. That's when people really start phoning it in.
Well, even then, do your best to get a promotion to get out of the crappy position you're in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been a thing at work. I've been busy all week, but I got home, and the big thing I did this week was I finished Rabby Ribby, and this took 3 days of free time, whole free time for 3 days. So right after work, I would get home, I would sit down, I'd be too tired to go out and do anything, and I would just sit in my chair and start beating on bosses in Rabby Ribby. And the first day, on Sunday, I managed to get to the last boss. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I was stuck on the final boss of that game. And this boss, there's nothing particularly difficult about any of the phases it has. Phase 1 is fairly standard bullet hell patterns. You know, just get good at dodging them. Relative to the rest of the game, it's pretty much standard fare. So you learn that phase. Phase 2, it's the same thing but harder. Phase 3 happens, and anytime she hits you, she drains your ability, your resources that you use to do damage to her with both characters. So you have to prioritize not getting hit above doing damage.
Oh, fun.
So every hit you take sets you back way further than you think it does. And she also has the wonderful effect where if she hits you at all at any point in the fight, she heals, like, she has 45 health bars. She heals half of a health bar for every hit she hits you, regardless of how hard it hit.
Good grief. That's a lot of health.
Yeah. It takes a direct hit from a full mana charge shot on your character. That's the hardest hitting ability you got to knock off 1 health bar.
Jeez. That is insane.
And 1 health bar is 1 complete full melee combo. If you're able to get one off, which you won't be able to. Because after a few seconds of being in a combo, she just nopes out of it, gets super armor, and gets the buff that says super armor, and then goes into her shenaniganery. And she just doesn't care what you're doing. Yeah, so there's a whole lot of using the homing bullets and just trying to dodge everything. But she's a fun fight. She's just really, really long. This is a 15 to 18 minute fight. Each phase is a boss fight in and of itself, and if you die, you gotta do the whole dang thing over again. It's a real painful fight. So, and then it gets to the end of the fight, and you get her down to 0. I'm like, oh, I got her, she's dead.
Nope.
And no, she starts doing like these ineffectual hops and trying to catch you in a net. And she's clearly not getting anywhere with whatever this attack is. And then she runs to the center, goes Super Saiyan, gets all her health back, and starts floating in the center of the arena and becomes invulnerable to all damage.
So this is my final form.
Yeah, she doesn't change how she looks at all. She's just sitting there in the background doing this giant bullet hell pattern at you, and you can't do anything to her during this phase. You just have to wait. Yeah, you just have to survive. And she loses about 1 health bar of her 45 health bars every 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Which means 6 health bars is a minute.
So all you got to do is just survive, basically.
For 5 minutes.
Oh.
Now, this probably is not actually how long those health bars take to go down. This is how long I remember these things taking to go down, because it seems like it takes that long for them to go down when you're stuck in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But time has a funny effect in that boss fight where you just have to not think about how much time anything's taking, or you're going to get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to keep on trucking through it. But yeah, she's a really fun boss fight. For a final boss, she's very impressive with a lot of the ways she makes you dodge the bullets. And she makes you use all the upgrades and abilities you've got at that point in the game, because she's the 100% completion boss.
Definitely sounds like an actual final boss then.
Yeah. So she's a 4-phase fight. Each phase of the fight is effectively its own boss fight. And it's just a marathon boss. She's really, really tough. And I was really happy that she was the final boss. It was interesting. And I still haven't beat her super duper Omega final form mode. She has an SP version that's even harder with 73 health bars.
Okay, that's just nuts.
Yeah, each phase lasts for 15 health bars. Exactly 15 health bars.
So there add more phases.
I have no idea.
Right, you haven't even got that far through it.
But it would get to a point where she's like, okay, she's at bar number 31. Okay, as soon as it gets to the halfway point of bar 30, she's going to get defense buff ++ and move to her next phase. So what you need to do is get it as close to the phase transition point as you can and smack her with the hardest hitting ability you've got to try and knock her down 2 whole bars if you can, so that you have a lead going into the next phase. So the next phase doesn't last as long, because the attacks get more and more intense as the phases go on. Each phase has like 30 different attacks.
Good great.
And she will never repeat any attacks. She will cycle through them, and they get more and more intense and harder to dodge as the phase goes on. So there are some attacks that you're just like, I can't let it get to this one because it's just too big of a pain in the butt to dodge. And so you just start working out ways to cheese the damage to be able to push her to the next phase before she does the really obnoxious attacks. There was one attack I genuinely didn't see a way to dodge at all. That would just completely cover the screen in bullet. Well, it turns out this attack is a freebie. All you need to do is stand in a corner and not move, and the bullets can't hurt you.
Okay.
Like, it literally covers the screen. There is nowhere to move.
Just stand in the corner like a good little rabbit.
Yeah, as long as you are not moving, the bullets do 0 damage.
Right.
So, Yeah, and the other part about her that makes starting every fight with her very obnoxious is she has 4 bombs that she will use at the start of the fight, and for everyone that hits you, it gives you a absolutely crippling debuff. The only way to counter them is to use your own bombs in time with her using them. And the reason she has this is the game wants you to obviously not have your bombs available for the first phase of this fight.
Yeah,
because if you use a bomb, you don't clear the bullets on screen, but you do a little bit of damage to everything on screen, and you become invulnerable for about a second and a half.
Right.
It's your I done goofed and I need to get out of trouble button, and they take time to recharge is the only thing that charges them up. So they just don't want you to have bombs for the first phase of this fight. And good luck surviving the last phase without full health and all 4 bombs available. I'm not sure a sane person can do it without a ton of practice.
And that's still not even her craziest mode.
No, I poked at the SP version, and it just completely steamrolled me. Like,
just now.
I put that one on the back burner. I'm like, you know what? The save file says 100%. I got everything. I'll come back and do her SP version later when I feel like hating myself.
Yes, when you feel like the taste of that delicious, delicious pain.
So yeah. All the boss fights in the game are really good. I played through the DLCs as well. They were fairly standard DLC type experiences. Not sure if they're quite worth the $15 you have to pay for them, but they're still fairly meaty. They're a whole new area. They each have one major new upgrade. One of them gives you an extra air jump in boss fights that applies to all boss fights. So nothing game breaking, but still really powerful.
That could come in real handy.
Yeah. So stuff like that. Whole new areas to explore. Now, here's the thing about the DLC content, though. The DLC content has its own share of collectibles to get that count towards 100% because the completion percentage rejigs based on which DLCs you own.
Yep.
But there's a catch.
Oh.
After you finish the DLC, its zone gets locked.
Oh.
Like, you can't go back to it. One of them literally collapses after you beat the boss of it, and you have to escape the zone as it's falling apart by following a complicated maze with old paths you took blocked off.
I love those load-bearing bosses.
So yeah, the ravine explodes, and then because of course it does. But there's still collectibles in there to go get, and this would normally mean you're just boned. You got to go cycle through New Game Plus. This is what you had to do, but because this company is very good at listening to their fans, they made it so if you go back to the last boss's room, choose not to fight the final boss's SP version, and just beat her normally again, it will reset the game to the point of just beating the last boss, so you get access to the DLC from scratch again.
Okay.
With all the stuff you already collected.
That's handy.
So they actually listened to people who were absolutely tearing their hair out over they missed this one Easter egg that they need for their 100%, but can't go back and get it because the ravine exploded. So yeah, that was nice of them.
Yes.
But yeah, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed that game. I definitely recommend people poke at it. It's usually pretty cheap. It goes on sale a lot.
Yep.
And it's a good time. You're not going to get super much out of it unless you really invest into it and learn boss patterns. So if you're not one that likes time commitment on these type of games, I wouldn't do it. But if you like finishing games and really getting into the nitty-gritty of learning a boss fight, it's a lot of fun.
Sounds it. And yeah, it just definitely sounds like it's got some bosses where you can just sit there and happily bang your head on for hours.
Yeah, and that's a type of gameplay that I'm very glad is getting more exposure these days with Dark Souls. Dark Souls made it mainstream and okay to do this again, because for a long time it wasn't okay to do this.
Yeah,
it would be called bad game design to put a stupid hard boss in front of the player's face where they just got to beat their head into it over and over again until it finally falls over.
Yeah, the AAA market still hasn't learned. That's like, challenge? What is that?
Yeah. It's just, they cannot have the players retrying too much. But the fact of the matter is, the type of games that I'm looking for, the type of games most people my age who played games when they were growing up are looking for, are games where you beat your head against a boss for days at a time.
Yeah.
And until something just clicks.
Or breaks. Whatever.
Or you break, one of the two. This is what gives, that sense of accomplishment when you beat something difficult.
Yeah.
And it's just something that is rare, got rarer and rarer until Dark Souls came out. And the only thing I really do credit Dark Souls with is making that okay again.
Yeah. It's something you really just don't get in the mainstream AAA market. It's everyone, they want people to kind of go through their game and experience their story, but they don't want, I guess they just don't want to challenge people because you don't get a massive sense of accomplishment when you finish a AAA game.
Well, the entire industry that is not people our age, that didn't play games growing up like we did, doesn't have the mentality that beating your head against a boss for days at a time is something that's okay to do and fun.
Yep.
That is not something that's in their lexicon as okay. They see that as bad and annoying and would never even think to design something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at their demographics and their market and they're like, even if they understand that there is an audience that grew up with that and likes that, they're going to go, yeah, but what about all the people with jobs? What about all the people the normies that don't have time to play games? They don't want to dedicate all their free time to one game for many weeks at a time. We got to make it fast. We got to make it easy so that all the normies can play it.
Yeah, the thing is, though, you really don't anymore. Game selection and the game variety has never been better.
I think now is a good time to aim for the niche markets.
Yeah.
The markets that don't have broad, super general appeal.
Yeah.
Because you're going to catch bigger fish that way. You're going to get people more excited for a game if it fits their preferences, because we're just so sick of this generic gray paste that anybody can beat, and there is no special reason for you to play it.
Yeah. Sometimes you do want a game where you can just sit down and kind of blah your way through it. That's fine. But other times you want a challenge. And for a while there was no games that actually really offered that challenge.
And I've gotten to a point where, unless it's just playing a collectathon type game or a Metroidvania for the sake of I like the genre, I just would rather watch a lot of these mainstream games on YouTube, because there's nothing I can't get out of a YouTube watch that I would get from playing the game.
Mm-hmm. If the only thing that really interests you on those games is story, and maybe seeing some of the cool cutscenes.
If you just want the game for the experience of going through the game, just go watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, just go watch it on YouTube.
Like, there's no point. But if there's some teeth to the game, and you know that other people have given up and not made it to the end, that adds inherent value to beating the game as a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter that you can't prove who has and who hasn't beaten it. The fact of the matter is, if a game is too hard that the normies can't take it, and at least some of them have bailed out, that's value to your game to people that actually play video games.
Yep. Dear.
So yeah, that's Rabby Ribby.
Old yet? I think we're old now.
Well, yeah, we advertise that every week, but it really shows when we talk about games in this particular light, because that mentality is something that doesn't exist with the younger generation.
No.
The idea of challenge being a good thing is something that is completely alien to them, and something that every younger person I've talked to has trouble wrapping their brain around. They just don't get it.
Yeah. Though thankfully that is changing.
Well, they're being exposed to it again with people streaming games like Sekiro and the Souls games, etc. But I don't know if they're adopting it. I think they still want the easy games.
Yeah.
And it's a relic of our time. So we need to wait for the niche titles and the few that do appeal to us to show up that actually embrace that. And if they happen to be in a subgenre that I particularly like, double points. See Hollow Knight. So yeah, that's one of the games I've played. I'm going through Hyper Light Drifter again because it was free on PS Plus months ago.
Okay.
And I just needed something to do with my hands today while I got caught up on podcasts. And I just was too tired to do anything else. So I decided my goal for today was I was going to get the 800 Chain Dash achievement in Hyper Light Drifter.
This makes you a crazy person. You know that, don't you?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm aware.
Just good. Just making sure you're aware.
I got it. I got 820. And at a speed of... So, the way chain dashing is an ability in Hyper Light Drifter. It's an isometric game where you can dash, and if you tap the dash button again at the end of the very end of the dash, you got about an 8-frame window. If you tap it again, you'll chain dash off of the previous dash, and you can just keep dashing forever like that if you can time it right the whole way through.
Yep.
As long as you don't hit a wall or a ceiling or touch anything. And you can keep the timing going. So the speed at which you have to tap the dash button is equivalent to the speed on a 240 beats per minute metronome.
Hint, hint.
And you cannot tap it too fast, and you cannot tap it too slow. It has to be in time with the metronome. So what I did was, after I got fed up with losing, I paused my podcast, I went on YouTube, looked up 240 BPM wooden block metronome, and just listened to this thing go clunk, 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 and use that as an audio cue to push the button.
Hey, it works.
It worked. I got it after about 7 tries doing that.
Clunk, 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 clunk.
The bigger problem is the hand cramp.
Ooh, yeah.
Because especially the stress hand cramp, because at about 300 dashes in a row, your finger's going to start hurting.
Yep.
At about 400, it's going to go back to normal, and you have to adjust for the tightness in your finger as it gets angry at you and gets less angry, and it gets re-angry around 640. And then it gets incredibly angry in the 700s. So that was a colossal pain in the butt.
Yes.
But I got it. So that is the hardest achievement in Hyper Light Drifter done, so I can platy that game if I want to now.
Nice.
I just have to actually finish the game. But I knew that was an achievement and that was going to make it hard for me to complete the game. Because on PC, all you got to do is just, set up a macro with any macro application.
Yeah, or and time an auto clicker or something.
Yeah, and just let it go. But on console, you got to do it legit.
Can't do that.
Can't do that. So did that, and I'm poking my way through that game. I've almost beat it because I still kind of remember the maps. It hadn't been that long since I chewed my way through it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm making progress in that game. So, that is pretty much my week. The only other thing I can pat it with is I'm a notary for the state of Georgia now. Yay.
That was a thing that happened.
Yeah. There were tornado warnings the day I went to go get my certification, and I didn't know this. It was pouring down rain on Wednesday or Thursday when I went to go get this thing. You couldn't see 2 feet in front of your face.
Fun.
And the windows were fogging up in the car. I had to pull into a gas station to let my defoggers run. It was getting so bad.
That's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it was absolutely dumping buckets. And so got there, and there wasn't any lines there. There was only like 2 dudes in front of me because nobody wanted to go out in that mess. And as I'm walking through the clerk's office, the guard looks at me like, "What are you doing here?" Like, there's like 3 other dudes that have come through today. What the heck are you here for if you're not court mandated? I'm like, I don't know. I just needed to get this thing done. And they've got tornado shelter in this direction signs pointed everywhere at the clerk's office in case the sirens go off. And I'm like, oh.
That's usually a good sign that you should not be out.
Yeah, but I was, 40 minutes away from my office or house.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I had to get back in my little car after I did my little oath and got my little stamp and drive all the way back in the pouring rain tornado warning. And I got home and I got to the office and my boss looks at me and goes, "Why were you out in that mess? I didn't expect you to go get that done today if it was, a tornado warning outside. That was dangerous." I'm like, "Well, it's done now."
You're kind of crazy, dude.
I just got up and had stuff to do. I was in autopilot mode.
Yeah, been there.
It's been one of those weeks.
Yeah.
So today it snowed. Our once every 2 years snow we get.
Last year I remember Georgia having a very light dusting. and people losing their freaking minds.
Yeah, this whole state shut down. It happened on a Saturday this time, so the shutdown won't be as bad. Although the snow has piled up quite high, I imagine the entire state is shut down.
Naturally.
We just don't got the equipment to deal with snow. It doesn't happen here. It's about that global warming, yo.
Yeah. Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, global warming's a hoax.
Hoax isn't the right word, but close enough.
No, it's a hoax. It's just a political engine.
That's the word I was looking for. So yeah,
I think all the show hosts, well, at least two of the show hosts would be in agreement. One of them is not here, but I feel confident in saying he would agree with me.
Oh yeah, I think he would, and then go on a long rant about it.
Yep. So I think that's about as much as we can pad the weeks.
All right. Well, in that case, we should probably take a break.
All right. Here's some music. We'll be back with some good news and whatever padding we can do to make it to 2.5 hours, if we can.
Yeah,
it might be a short show this week. But we'll be right back after some music. And we're back.
Yes, indeedy. With more cleaning. Yes.
Yes.
That is the thing I am doing.
So,
news happened this week. It seems like the games industry, or at least parts of it, have finally come out of their nap.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of teasing going on.
There's a lot of teasing going on.
We'll start with the elephant in the room, I guess.
Yeah, the
follow up from last week.
So, Blizzard's disaster with Warcraft Reforged continues with a non-apology, as is becoming their standard approach to just about everything now.
It wasn't just a non-apology. It was outright offensive.
It was.
As a person who has consumed Blizzard products, a lot.
Yes.
It was painful to read that.
They didn't address
anything. They said
really.
They said we're sorry you didn't enjoy the product.
That is not how you want to open one of these. It was we're sorry you did not get the experience you expected, which is placing the blame on the consumer.
Yeah. So obviously the apology, it doesn't matter what it says after that because it's disingenuous.
Yeah.
It's not an apology. It's just a well, you should give us your money anyway. But yeah. It was a non-apology, and it was actually, they would have been better if they kept their dang mouth shut.
Honestly, yes, because people came out in force after that.
Yeah, people were mad.
Mad does not even begin to state it. So, in the end, Blizzard did make a few more statements, all of which were equally vapid. But they did lift the restrictions. Now, normally their refund policy is anal, I guess is probably the best word to call it.
Non-existent is almost a better word for it.
Well, it's certainly existing. It exists to stop you from getting your refund.
Yeah. It's to make the process as convoluted as possible, but still technically have one, just in case some country needs you to have one for legal reasons.
Yeah. Well, Australia, for example, if you don't have such a policy, you can't trade here. Period.
Yeah. So
they've lifted the restriction, so if you want a refund, you can now get one, no questions asked.
Yep, they have set up an auto refunder.
Yeah.
And the bot will just give you a refund. Now, I have a thunk that I had about this.
A thunk, you say?
I do not think for 1 second that this is Blizzard in genuine realization of their mistake going to be nice to the customer and give them their money back. That is not why they're doing this.
No, I think someone's leaning on them.
I think what happened was they opened their dang mouths and said, nobody gets a refund. No, shut it down. No, you're not getting a refund. All sales are final. And somebody said, you literally can't do that in my country. You're breaking trade law.
Yep.
And then Blizzard's lawyer looked in and said, my dudes, da fudge.
Someone, because there were statements and little murmurings floating around that Blizzard was going to dig their heels in. And then, thankfully, they didn't.
And then a lawyer showed up.
I'm assuming. Or at least someone who knew what they were talking about. It is now, not only is it at 0.5 on Metacritic, the official, quote-unquote, professional critics are chiming in, and they've dropped the user score to 60. Oh, sorry, not the user score, the official score. Which, in game review terms, is a 0. Because, that's how numbers work, apparently.
That is a failing grade.
That is a failing grade.
Yeah, so let's go to... I don't care much for what the critic score is on any video game. It is historically 820% useless.
Completely, yes.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find it, but I keep getting redirected away from the Metacritic page for Warcraft 3 Reforged.
It's so bad they don't even want you looking at it now.
Yeah, let's see. Warcraft 3 Okay, there we go.
Reforged.
Have to go to the page specifically. You can't search for it or it redirects you to World of Warcraft. So, yeah, we have critic reviews, 2 positive, 28 mixed, which is, I think,
a negative.
40 to 70, and 2 negative, which are just the contrarian websites, basically.
Yeah, the ones who are actually trying to put a little bit of professional back into games journalism.
Oh, the negative ones are often on critic review pages. The websites that are just trying to be negative to get the clicks.
Oh, yeah, those ones. There's always a few of those.
Those seem to make up the majority of the very tippy top and the very, very bitty bottom of the critic review list.
Yeah.
So, let's take a look at how we're doing in user reviews. We have 425 positive reviews, 125 mixed reviews, 12,606 negative reviews.
There it is. People are mad.
It just blows my mind that Blizzard ain't got the message yet. And their apology shows they ain't got the message yet. They're non-apology.
They're non-apology. It's just spin.
Yeah, they are trying to sweep this under the rug and take as little reputational damage as they can, but they do not realize what they're doing is just ticking people off more. Yeah. They don't know that the entirety of their community is interconnected these days. As soon as they make a move, they have heard the speculation from 800 different YouTubers or whatever, or podcasters or whatever article writers they follow, and they know exactly what the motive behind what they said was.
Yes, even then it doesn't take a genius to figure it out.
PR spins like this don't work in the modern day.
Nope.
And when anybody can get information from anywhere, I don't think this kind of PR spin is the tack you gotta take. There is no reason to do it other than you are just stupid.
I think, honestly, people would be much more receptive if a company was just open and honest and said, put their hands up and said, okay, we done goofed. Here's what we're going to do to fix it.
There are 2 approaches that can redeem you in the eyes of the customer base today in gaming. Number 1, seppuku. Admission. Yeah, commit seppuku. Publicly.
Yes.
Like, just cut your stomach open before everybody and say, we done goofed, and genuinely mean it. And then with your next product, come out with something better.
Yeah.
That is one way. The other way is the No Man's Sky approach. Shut up, don't say anything, get back to work.
Yeah, and now they shut up, they got back to work, and now they have a product that is... It's fairly reminiscent of what was actually promised in the first place.
Yeah, and of note, in the No Man's Sky disaster, they spent that time fixing the product that they bought.
I think they really said at the time was, okay, it's not what people expected. Let's go get back to work. That's essentially what it boiled down to.
There is a very, very good documentary done by Internet Historian, of all people.
Oh, yes. Yes, Woman's Land.
Yeah.
It's that much of a turnaround, he had to invert the title.
Yeah, he covers it from the side of the fans and how they saw everything leading up to and including the first bit after release. And then he does the whole back end, second half of the mini mockumentary from the perspective of the developers. And as I'm watching this, the first time I was going through it, I'm like, clearly he is just doing this to frame these guys as good people. But what I did not know until the end of that documentary was how much the community turnaround in reception was.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know it had rallied that hard. I knew it had rallied, and it had gone at least, but in my head, it was still, back to, mixed from, hey, this game is the most fun thing to make fun of all time, 0 out of 10, to about, I was thinking it was around a 6 out of 10. Something playable that was still an indie thing. I did not know what was going on with that game until I'd watched his little jokey documentary.
Mm-hmm. But no,
I think I still have it linked in the video games thread on our Discord somewhere if you want to go watch it.
Yeah. The game had its very dedicated niche audience right from the get-go, but now that it's turned around, a lot of people who tried the game in the first place and did not like it or were very disappointed, gave it another go. They came back and were very happy with what they found.
Yeah, so that's the other way you can. Yeah, I have not touched No Man's Sky. It is not a genre of game that ever fell into my interest wheelhouse.
It is not a game for everyone. It is a very niche game, and thankfully they've catered to that niche. And I like tried to expand beyond it.
I like very structured exploration. I do not like very freeform exploration.
Yeah.
I like a lot of freedom in how I explore the confines of what I'm giving, but I want whatever I'm given to explore to be in a box.
Yeah, okay. I don't mind the freeform, but I would actually like something more to, actually find.
Yeah.
Which I think was actually going to be in the cards, like having stuff you can actually discover. More variety for planets down the road. So yeah, they listened, and they're not the only ones to do it. Of course, the poster child is still being Final Fantasy XIV. We all remember the disaster that was 1.0. Actually, no, we don't, because we choose not to.
That was committing seppuku, going, we done goofed.
We're going straight back to the drawing board.
Yeah, when you take either of those approaches, you can rally and fix a mistake. You can turn that mistake into a selling point and mitigate the damage you did to yourself with it.
Yeah, customer base, fandoms are willing to forgive if you're willing to admit it.
And this is the thing, right? This is a facet of the gaming culture as a whole, and that they're one of the few communities that has the potential to forgive you if you just don't try and stick pineapples up their penises.
Oh, that's graphic.
But that's what Blizzard's done, effectively. Or what they tried to do. It's what, Bethesda's done. And, it makes it real hard to forgive somebody if they don't get their act together and have no intention of getting their act together. And I think this is clear that no Blizzard product is deserving of my money, period. And nor anybody else's money if they feel any kind of strong attachment or conviction with the older Blizzard games.
Yeah. The next two releases from Blizzard are going to be very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got you got the next WoW expansion coming up, and you've got Diablo 4 on the horizon. And I suppose if you want to actually dignify it, Overwatch 2, which is an expansion pack and not a sequel.
Which is going to get, ass blasted like this game. Yeah. Not as hard, probably, but it's still going to get blasted because it's just Overwatch 1.4. Yeah.
Like, it's not what people would expect from an expansion. It's what they expect from... from a sequel, rather. It's what people would expect from an expansion.
Yeah, or, a patch.
Yeah, people got really sniffy when Left 4 Dead 2 did it.
Yeah.
Until they actually saw what was going on behind the scenes, where they ripped out massive chunks of the engine.
And we're okay paying expansion price for a game.
Yeah.
But trying to crap out an expansion and sell it for full price breaks enough with tradition enough to make people mad.
Yeah.
Like, paying $40 at most for a full expansion of the multiple hours of content with a new additional campaign and scenario, that's pretty acceptable.
Yeah.
Paying $60 for a couple new game modes and character skins, Nuh-uh.
Especially when they're not changing anything on the back end by the sound of it.
Or you could just be Team Cherry and do it for free.
Or you could just do it for free. Or you can have one of your expansions blow up so big that it has to kind of become a spiritual sequel.
Or, it just becomes the straight sequel, like Silksong is.
Yes.
Like, Silksong is Hollow Knight 2.
At this point, it is just Hollow Knight 2.
It's been in development for a year and a half. The game world is bigger than Hollow Nest at this point.
Yeah, see, that's feature creep in the best possible way.
Yeah, they just... And the reason I get with Team Cherry so easily is because they gave us expansion after expansion after expansion to the original game for free. that was in a game that was already $15.
Yep.
And had a ton of content for $15. I would have bought that game at $35.
Yep.
Before I was, a super big fan of it.
And again, bringing it back to No Man's Sky, that's one of the big reasons why people are really getting behind them, is because they did all these changes and all these updates for free.
Yeah, you are asking the customer for nothing and just trying to salvage that goodwill to get your customers back.
Yes. So yeah, gamers as a whole are very willing to forgive, despite what the stereotypes might believe, if you're willing to eat a little bit of crow.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to be humble enough as a developer to be like, my dudes, we goofed.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do.
That's it. At the other end of the spectrum, though, you've got things like EA, and they're basically devilry over the last couple of years.
Well, you get corporations by their nature are stupid.
Yes.
They have to be, because they're not an individual. It learns very slowly and oddly because it is not a thinking human being. It has people assigned to functions that make it operate, but it cannot think for itself.
Beep boop.
So it is much slower to learn. It takes an individual in that company going, okay, dudes, look, we done goofed, and this is how we fix it, to get the done goof moment, and then rally like Capcom or No Man's Sky or whatever.
Yeah. Capcom's interesting meeting where they admitted that figured out they're done goofing would have been very interesting.
Oh, we already know the meeting. We know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
The Monster Hunter team had just got out of a meeting with the higher-ups and said, look, we're doing amazing because in our game's selling like gangbusters because we finished the dang game. And then Itsuno came in, or Kamiya came in. I get those two mixed up all the time. One's the old DMC5 dev and one's the current one. One's the old DMC dev and one's the current one.
Yes.
It came in their office and said, okay, dudes, I quit unless you let me make these projects exactly the way I want to.
Yep.
And he's like their star guy at this point, and they had to say yes.
Yeah, especially after what they did to DMC. Devil May Cry was essentially dead at that point.
Yeah, so his first request was, I want Devil May Cry 5. His second request was, I want to work on Resident Evil 2.
Yes.
And do a proper remake of it. His third request was an original game that we don't know anything about yet.
We shall see soon, hopefully.
So they had their wake-up moment by having individuals in the company go, look, this is how you do it.
Yeah, especially when they were sitting on the disasters of Mortal Kombat Infinite, not Mortal Kombat Infinite.
Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Yep.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 5, Resi 6.
And by all accounts, they wanted to do the DLC shenanigans with DMC 5. They wanted to nickel and dime this thing.
And they were flat out told no.
And Itsuno looks at him and goes, no, F you.
Yeah, just
like,
no.
If you really need it to keep your investors from jumping on your butt, I'll put the Red Orb purchase DLC back in. You know, the thing that nobody uses because you can just farm them in game. And just to spite you, I'll make Dante do a Michael Jackson dance with a fedora and have that fedora give you extra Red Orbs.
Yeah. It will be awesome.
So that you don't need to buy the DLC.
You don't need to buy the DLC.
So, make it halfway through the game and you can farm as many as you want.
There's absolutely no reason to buy the DLC.
Yeah. Tell you what, I got good at catching that hat. The way you farm it is you go into the multiplayer level where you can play with other people. There's one level designed for multiplayer specifically. And it's just 3 giant rooms filled with increasingly more difficult enemies. And you just go in that place in single player and just throw the hat in a circle around you, and everything it hits also wears a hat. And when the hat comes back around, if you tap the button at the right moment, Dante will catch the hat, put it back on his head, and strike a pose. Even if he's in the air, he'll do an air pose. And everybody with a hat on them explodes and just showers you in red orbs.
See, that's a skill worth doing just because it's awesome.
Oh, it's a great launcher. It keeps them up in the air.
Yeah,
I've used it in legit combos too. It's not just for farming.
Yeah. It's the sort of thing you do just because it's cool. The red orbs are basically a bonus at that point.
Yeah, it's just that whole weapon was a big FU to the investors who insisted on having DLC in the game.
Yeah. All right. So that's... Where were we? Blizzard, I guess they haven't learned at this point, but we'll see what they do.
We've given examples of how companies can rally.
Yep.
Blizzard has shown no hint at all that they're going to rally.
Well, they've said nothing about Diablo Immortal either, when that massive negative impact came. Oh, actually, sorry, they did say one thing. Do you guys not have phones?
Oh, yeah, they said that.
They said
and then
that.
they promptly shut up about Diablo Immortals and didn't talk at all.
Yeah.
I've never heard a BlizzCon boo before.
No. I've heard them kind of lackluster cheering in the past, but never outright boo.
Just, Blizzard's been screwing up so bad these last couple years.
The
team that did Classic was completely divorced from the main Blizzard team. They were a bunch of old hats that Mark Kern had recommended to go make this game. Make WoW Classic, which is why WoW Classic got out the gate pretty untouched. It was not really tendrilled in with Blizzard, and one of the old hats handpicked the team, even though he didn't get to work on it very much.
Yeah.
And you've got all the new Blizzard. They've got Diablo Immortals. They get booed. Do you guys not have phones? They get booed.
They got booed more.
They get booed harder. Is this an out of season April Fool's joke?
Yeah.
I think that's what the phone's comment was a response to.
Yeah, I think it was.
And no, it was will this be coming to anything like PC or something, or is this just a mobile experience?
That's right.
And they're like, it'll just be on mobile phones, and the crowd booed, and they're like, do you guys not have phones?
No. Yeah.
And they had to eat that pie, and then the Blitzchung thing happened.
Yeah, and they made an absolute hash of that.
They completely flushed their entire Western customer base, and seemed to be completely caught off guard by this. Like, anybody in a Western country is not going to be okay with you supporting a dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be okay, especially when, I guess it's because they're in California. And California might as well be another planet.
Yep.
It genuinely is so culturally divorced from the rest of the U.S., especially, that it is its own country. It is a totally different way of thinking over there. And then we get WoW Classic comes out, and WoW Classic came out before the Blitzchung thing, and the Blitzchung thing, made people pop out of WoW Classic.
Badly.
Yeah, WoW Classic stabilized at way higher numbers than they expected, but it was lower than it could have been because of their Blitzchung disaster. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they had Warcraft 3 Reforged. And the Overwatch 2 announcement went up like a lead balloon.
Sack of bricks.
Yeah. How haven't they got it yet? They've had 2 years. And by all accounts, World of Warcraft's player base is in 5 digits.
Yikes.
We are below 100,000.
Considering that the numbers of people that game used to get, that is terrible.
It is bottomed out at below 100,000 regulars anyway. And that something has got to tweak an investor and be like, what the heck are y'all doing?
Yeah.
Somebody at a board meeting is going to start slamming some tables. Yeah. It's got to happen. Or Blizzard's just going to die.
Yep. And despite how terribly they've been performing and doing lately, I don't want to see that.
And I didn't even touch on the World of Warcraft specific stuff for current X-Pack because I don't know anything about it. I don't play anymore.
The latest patch is an absolute just dog's breakfast.
We all saw that last cutscene. I could have made that in Paint.
Yeah, that was the cutscene that was someone put together over lunch, and that was it. Yeah,
it used to be with Blizzard. You could count on only one thing in a Blizzard game to be perfect, even if everything else was terrible. Post Wrath of the Lich King. That was their cinematics would look absolutely gorgeous. That thing looked like it was done in MS Paint.
Yes. It was bad. Not to mention
I hope they have to eat humble pie. And just have to fire people, basically. And people have to take pay cuts. It's the only way that they learn from their mistake.
Mm-hmm.
This is how capitalism is supposed to work. If you goof and you refuse to admit you goof and fix your goof, you don't get to do business anymore because the customers ain't going to give you money.
Yeah, I'm just glad that by and large the customer base for games is starting to learn that now. They're not just blindly shelling out cash anymore because there are other options.
Yeah, we're spoiled for choice at the moment.
Yeah.
If one company starts, doing a goof, oh, Capcom's doing all right now. I'll go buy some of their games.
Yeah, go see what's going on over there.
Like, we are spoiled for choice in today's environment.
Yeah.
Just because you are Blizzard, you have already ruined whatever goodwill that name had with, post. Probably Warlords of Draenor is what killed whatever goodwill you had. You've been burning the embers of it ever since then.
It was on thin ice even before that.
Yeah, with Warcraft 3 Reforged, it's gone. It's not even, the soot isn't smoking anymore. You have completely burned whatever was left of your goodwill as a company, and now people are actively avoiding you because you're Blizzard.
Yeah.
And to go from the guys that made Diablo 2, that made StarCraft, that made World of Warcraft, to that company that people will actively avoid because their behavior the last half decade.
Yeah.
And the way they've put out products.
There's been scum and just disaster after disaster.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Do we have something good and interesting and hopefully positive we're talking about?
We got a couple small things.
Alrighty. Let's see.
Let's talk about. There's 3 I want to get to that will be pretty quick.
All right, pick one.
So, fighting games have not had a fruitful several years. The last few games that have come out have established themselves very much so as the new in-game. We got our new Smash, we got the new Street Fighter, we got Dragon Ball FighterZ, and, whatever the current other team at Arc System Works makes for their yearly game in the rotation as permanent stays.
Yep.
So at EVO this year, they were really struggling to come up with a way to fill the slots. So they just kind of are bringing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 back as a main event.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate.
No, Capcom admittedly kind of went quiet on that afterwards.
Yeah, they let that game die.
Yeah. Because it was just bad.
So,
no other word for it, just bad.
Mm-hmm. Poor Dante. Poor Chun-Li.
Poor everyone on that roster.
Dante and Chun-Li, though, the frying pan to the face.
I'm still wondering what on earth they were thinking with Chun-Li's redesign. Just why?
Well, it's because they used the old models.
Yeah, they
from
got lazy.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3. They didn't even make new wireframes. And they just pasted the new art assets onto the old wireframes, so they got all scrunched and wonky looking.
Yeah. On the plus side, at least that game that doesn't put Monster Hunter in the game. On the downside, they did horrible things to the Monster Hunter theme.
Yeah.
It's like playing the Monster Hunter theme, grand, sweeping, epic, on a beehive. That's what it sounds like.
So yeah. It is the 20th anniversary of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. MVC2 was one of the last arcade cabinets I saw being played in arcades, seriously, around here.
Okay.
Before the age of arcades was dead completely. So, Marvel, baby.
Marvel, baby.
Yipes is going to cast it. Yipes is a really fun guy to cast it. Jay Wong and a few other players are going to be casting it. So it has a good bunch of fun people from the older Fight FGC before EVO turned into the mess it is these days. So Yipes is a nut. He's the guy that coined Pringles.
Okay.
And made it a meme for fighting games. Just because Magneto has curly mustache and he looks like the Pringle Man.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
So that's where Curly Mustache and Pringles comes from. He's a nut. He's going to be casting it. He's going to make it a lot of fun, and it's going to have Justin Wong and all the old big players of the game that were really fun to watch.
All right.
So I'm actually kind of glad they brought it back. It was a good way to celebrate an impactful game in the genre's 20th anniversary. I think is to bring it back for Evo like that.
Nice. All right. For the next announcement, I suppose we have is not just one announcement. It's kind of 4, but not really. So Platinum Games has put up what they're calling the Platinum 4 this year. 4 big games, 4 big announcements, of which they've already announced the first, which is a remaster of Wonderful 101, which was a Wii U exclusive. As a Kickstarter. I'm not sure why as a Kickstarter, but yeah.
Probably because this game just did not have any money behind it.
Yeah. Now, the game itself was incredibly good. It had some really kind of jank mechanics, but that was half the fun. But it's a Sentai game where you end up ultimately controlling 101 different heroes. You only get the 101st in the post-game. But, yeah, spoilers, by the way. I mean, you start off fighting street thugs and small-time aliens with just 1 or 2, and then ultimately you're flying the mecha version of the Platinum Games building to fight aliens in space, on top of a giant, even bigger space robot.
General Platinum Games shenaniganery.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we need to escalate, and we'll just never stop. We'll just keep on escalating.
Yeah, originally it was just going to be a Switch game. They have reached the stretch goals to make a Steam version and a PS4 version as well. No Xbox One version.
Yeah.
But the important thing here is if you give these guys $100 US after ballparking the yen conversion, you get for every tier above that the best reward of all time.
And that would be?
Get blocked by Hideki Kamiya on Twitter.
There you go.
Normally that's free, but you can pay for the privilege of getting it now. You can be specially blocked by Kamiya. Because I'm glad that they know and have told Kamiya that he has become a meme with how much he blocks people.
It's getting a bit silly at this point.
Kamiya will block people just for mentioning him.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Not everyone has the privilege of being blocked on Twitter by the illustrious Hideki Kamiya, but it's all about to change. As a very special Kickstarter tier, Kamiya himself will tweet directly at you and then block you forever.
It's great. I love it.
It had become a joke because Kamiya does not understand English perfectly well. He understands some English, but he's not fluent. So he would think people were pestering him and making demands when they were just talking to him about stuff. So he got known as the guy that blocks you if you even mention his name.
Normally you need a blue check mark for that.
Yeah, so Kamiya, I'm glad that they know it's a joke now.
Yeah.
I was kind of worried that Kamiya was just a jerk, but since they have made it a Kickstarter tier, Kamiya's probably just a jerk about this, but he's turned it into a joke, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So that's good. I really loved Wonderful 101. It was just a good, dumb game. The second character you unlock is essentially Dante, just blue. I mean, what's not to like?
I never finished it.
Okay.
Because it was on the Wii U.
Yeah, that's where it really kind of fell down. Like, it was a great game, but it just did not sell. I think it only sold about 200,000 copies.
Oh yeah, it bombed.
It bombed big time. So, I'm not necessarily going to support the Kickstarter for it because honestly, you're kind of crazy if you do that these days.
I'm not going to support this Kickstarter. I'm not a franchise fan of 101. I don't have enough go for and gung-ho-ness for Platinum themselves these days to back them on something like this.
Yep.
And honestly, they've got Nintendo backing them now. They shouldn't need a Kickstarter.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Kickstarter for this is okay. We've whatever money we've got is being put into whatever these other 3 projects are. This is just kind of a side thing for the fans.
Yeah, this is a thing to tide them over because we're going to be stuck working on whatever we're going to be working on for a while.
At this point, everyone's just saying it's Drakengard. It's a new Drakengard.
Well, that's the joke.
That is the
Nobody
joke.
actually knows if it's going to be Drakengard 4 or not.
Yeah.
So we got 3 more announcements they're going to make, and people are hoping it's going to be Drakengard 4 because they did this big 4 thing. And the reason they want it to be Drakengard is because they want Yoko Taro trolling people back.
It is what he does.
Yoko Taro is one of the best developer trolls on the planet. He sold Nier Automata through trolling.
Yeah. Also bums.
I mean, the game was good, and it was a genuinely, fun video game. But he sold the game in the initial pitch because he was the dude that trolled everybody all the time.
Yeah. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah, we've got that. The other things people are thinking are another Bayonetta.
Well, we already got Bayonetta in the works, so it won't be that one. We know Bayonetta 3 is coming.
Yeah.
We just had the Switch version of Bayonetta 1 and 2.
Yeah. But that wasn't that... Actually, that was a bit long ago now that I think of it. It's a couple of years.
Yeah, we got that like a year after... Not even a year after the Switch came out.
Yeah. But if they want to use up one of their 4, they could just say, Bayonetta 4, 3. By the way, it's on shelves now. Off you go.
I don't know. I think they're new projects that have not been announced yet, so...
Yep. I'm thinking at least one of these is going to be something completely new. Or at least, a new IP with the usual Platinum Games trappings.
Yeah, and they've done okay with new IPs. Astral Chain was not successful, from what I understand, but it was a playable video game that did some fun experimental stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they're doing stuff with the action game genre nobody else is willing to do.
Yep.
So I'm okay with them blowing one of these on some experimental new IP.
Yeah. It sounds like they could put together something cool.
Because there are ideas you can pick out of, like, Astral Chain that worked, but this really doesn't. And you could refine that into a better game. But we wouldn't have known that if they didn't go face first into it and experiment with it.
Yeah.
And mess around with it a little bit. Mission 12, by the way, is if they raise enough money on their little whatever Kickstarter gamification of making money goes, the very last one is Kamiya will block the world on Twitter.
Isn't that just deleting Twitter?
Yeah, Kamiya would have to block himself.
He'd have to block himself. I mean, that would probably be the absolute pinnacle of a illustrious career of blocking people, but it's going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah. Like, if I tweet at Kamiya right now, I'll get blocked.
You could.
I could do it live on show.
We might do that next week.
I just tweet him and be like, please block me, Kamiya-san.
He'll probably just go, okay.
He probably won't even do it. He'll just see a message. He'll see a DM from you and auto block you. Probably won't even think about it. Just be like, nope, block.
I want nothing to do with this. I have made an absolute mess of this. Ugh.
So yeah, that's been a thing.
Yeah, so we'll have to stay tuned on that and see what comes of it. Hopefully good stuff. Hopefully good stuff. I like what Platinum Games has made in the past. But there is, of course, that the big boogeyman hanging around their heads at the moment, and that's being Tencent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's got a few people rather skeptical.
Tencent has... So there are 2 versions of Tencent, right? There is the Tencent that knows that the China buck is about to explode, and the Tencent that needs to just get its assets into Western money because it's going to die if it stays on the China buck.
Yep.
There's that Tencent. And then there's the Tencent that actively tries to interfere with corporations to sell to the Chinese market. And the Chinese market is not like the Western market.
No. It is really not.
Yeah. If they start trying to push shenaniganery, we could lose a lot of this experimental stuff that Platinum has been doing. Even Bayonetta has a lot of experimental junk in it.
Yeah.
Like attaching weapons to the feet and Bayonetta's giraffe legs to make them usable.
Have a character with the world's most ridiculous proportions. I mean,
this is clearly why
sort of.
I mean, you kind of need it for gameplay, especially in Bayonetta 2 when you tape chainsaws to her feet.
Yeah, that's kind of when they climb straight over the silly horizon, isn't it?
It's one of the best weapons to stick on her feet.
It
Keeps
is.
your combo going.
It totally is.
I got all the Switch Chivos for that game. I had to get good with them combos, and feet chainsaws were the way to get all the high combos.
And feet chainsaws.
But yeah. So yeah, maybe we'll get Dragon Guard 4. That would be nice. Yoko Taro will be let out of his cage.
Is that a good thing? I mean, people get hurt when that happens.
When that happens, we will probably wind up talking a whole lot more about booties instead of boobies.
Yeah, that is also true.
Good old Yoko Taro is very much so a booty person.
He's definitely a butt man.
He oh man. So,
all right, what else we got?
There's a bunch of little stuff we could poke at.
Yeah, we got time.
So we have. Oh, where was it? I'm having a brain fart.
Professionalism.
Yeah. Oh, you have it. I didn't look this one. I saw this, but you linked it.
Right.
PlayStation asked a rather awkward question in one of their surveys. Now, there are two ways to interpret this. But, the question was, would you like PS4 Remote Play on Nintendo Switch?
Yeah.
Now, you can already Remote Play to literally everything else.
Yes, you can.
You can Remote Play on your computer if you want.
Yes, you can.
I have done it at the office before.
When you should be working, you mean?
If I'm on phone duty, I'm just kind of sitting there waiting for the phone to ring, and it's after 4:30.
Yeah.
You know, that's what Remote Play is for.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I can see absolutely no reason not to.
Yeah, that would be absolutely amazing if Nintendo will allow them to publish their Remote Play app on the Switch.
Yeah. Like you can play all your PlayStation 4 games on the go.
That's the first interpretation. Yeah, that's the first interpretation of this, and the more charitable one, and I think the more likely one in this scenario, because it makes both the companies more money.
Yes.
The other one is a much more cynical take that is not nearly as hopeful.
Yeah.
And that is, the only reason this question's on the survey to begin with is because they want to see how much market overlap they have with Nintendo and how much Nintendo's lunch they need to eat.
I mean, there's probably going to be an element of that no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's stay hopeful. I mean, we've had enough negativity for today.
Oh, we've had a lot of positivity, actually. This has been a fairly positive show, all things considered.
I am positive that Blizzard will not learn anything.
Yeah, but we got to talk about all the companies that have done something right.
Yeah, that's true. Positive show. What's going on? Where have we gone wrong?
We don't have a Vol.
Yeah.
He's normally the angry one.
This is also true.
He has far and away the redder of the emotions of all of us.
He is definitely the angries. So yeah, I'm hopeful for this. I'd love to see that.
It is entirely feasible unlike a lot of other cross-play shenaniganery that we see pitched, because it's just remote play. It would literally be just an app that Sony is allowed to sell on the Switch store or put on the Switch store for free to download and treat the console as a portable PS or remote play device.
Yeah.
There would be no cross-play features or anything, no cross-game communication. It would just be you can use the remote play app like you do on your computer.
Yeah. By the way, Ari, I have a joke to tell you.
Oh boy.
Google Stadia.
Yeah,
they don't get lame. But yeah, we don't actually. I don't actually have an article for this, but Stadia has gone quiet, very quiet.
Yeah, there isn't the news about Stadia is there is no news.
Yeah, there's all this stuff they promised, all these games that they promised just have not materialized.
Yeah, they've gone total radio silent after they bombed.
Yeah. I'm expecting you'll probably see Google Stadia in the Google graveyard by the end of the year.
Yeah. Like all solo Google projects, inevitably, it goes to the Google graveyard.
Yeah.
Google Glass, Google Plus, now Google Stadia, all the other solo projects they didn't buy from other people. This has happened throughout Google's entire life cycle.
Yeah.
Or lifetime, post, 2005.
Yeah, so everybody called the failure of Stadia beforehand, but there's so many better options. Like, PlayStation is doing their option, Microsoft is doing theirs, and actually doing absolute gangbusters with what they're promising. If they deliver on everything, it'll be even better. Like the option to be able to stream games or download them? Yes, please.
Dude, we're talking backwards compatibility next generation.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
Proper backwards compatibility too.
Yeah, that's been off the table for so long, and people just have this junk sitting on their counter. They're like, I would like to play these old games again, but I can't.
Yeah. I've got a cupboard full of PS2 games I wouldn't mind dusting off sometime, including Persona 3, the original one.
Yeah. I have there are stacks on my shelf, loosely organized by system. Yep. My biggest stack is my PS4 stack. And then I have the tiny Wii U stack. And sitting vertically on top of the Wii U stack are the Switch and DS games. And then in the stack about as tall as the Wii U stack plus the vertically set up straight Switch games is the PS3 stack.
Yep.
And the PS3 stack is literally covered in dust.
Yeah. Oh, now there's a game I've got to dust off. Lucifer's Call. It's also known as SMT Nocturne.
Going back to Nocturne is painful.
Yes. It was painful the first time because Matador happened.
Yeah, Matador always happens.
Matador is famous for happening. But also, Dante happens because reasons.
Featuring Dante from Devil May Cry.
Featuring Dante. There doesn't seem to, still doesn't to this day seem to be absolutely any reason for that. He's just there.
He was popular at the time. He invented the spectacle fighter action game genre. You know, his game had just come out. He was having a sequel come out. It was going to be a big deal, that Devil May Cry 2. And so the guys at Atlas were like, let's strike a deal.
Let's just stick Dante in there.
Our game has demons. He hunts demons. Kind of works.
Yeah. Put him in there as a boss fight. Several times.
You know, you eventually get him. He's not very good, though. Yeah,
it's a shame.
He has a whole bunch of custom moves and custom animations, but they're not very good.
Yeah.
And most of that is because physical attacks are garbage in Nocturne.
Yay!
If you play physical damage dealer, you will absolutely wreck face in the mid game. But the second you get to late game, good luck doing any of the 100% completion bosses.
Yep, fun's over.
Yeah, you need everybody needs to have Pearson vulnerability. Otherwise, you ain't hitting anybody because a bunch of them bosses are straight immune to physical damage.
They will mock you for it.
Yep.
In a couple of cases, literally.
is why nobody plays a physical character.
Yeah. What other games I got there? Shadow Hearts. There's a series I've been meaning to go back to. I've never actually finished Shadow Hearts 3. I mean, this is a JRPG with a giant man who, for no apparent reason, just walks up, rips a cactus out of the ground, and uses that as a weapon for the next 3 or 4 hours.
I think I remember that series in the back of my brain somewhere.
That's the one that had the Wheel of Fate. Like, everything you did, you had to spin the wheel and hit the strike zones. And that was, combat, that was dialogue, that was everything.
I don't think I played it, but I remember the game in the back of my head somewhere. I must have seen it on TV.
Yeah. It had a very weird plot.
I got all the from Tales of Graces to Tales of Xillia 2 over there on PS3 that haven't been touched.
Yeah.
I got I've rebought Valkyria Chronicles, but I have it over there. I've got can't even see, there's a bunch of wires in front of the bottom of it.
Naturally.
A bunch of the games on PS3 I rebought when they got remastered.
Yeah. So
oh, I did not rebuy Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance though.
Nobody should have bought that in the first place. It was pretty bad.
Amazing.
But I thought Revengeance. Yeah, words. I thought
Revengeance
was
really
the bad
dumb.
one.
No, Revengeance is amazing. It's really dumb, but it's really fun.
Dumb is not necessarily bad.
It is Platinum Games being handed the Metal Gear license and being told, do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense. It made all the Metal Gear fans angry, but if you're not a Metal Gear fan, it is a hootenanny of a stupid fun time.
Yeah, it's better than handing a franchise to Team Ninja because all they do is put boobs on it.
Yeah, but
Team Ninja ruined Metroid. This is not news.
Yeah. The arguments, Metroid Other M is a bad video game.
Yes.
But I don't like the arguments people make for it being a bad video game.
Well, the junky controls, the terrible writing, the absolutely phoned-in voice acting.
Most of them skirt around, the video game part of it.
Yep.
And don't talk about why that's a bad video game, because everybody I see that talks about, oh, it's such a bad Metroid game, doesn't know what makes a good Metroid game to compare it to, and this is why I hate the other discussion.
You're also lagging.
Oh boy. Yeah, I can see my board going red.
Oh dear. Is this the snow starting to ruin your internet?
It might be. Pickle.
Pickle?
We good? I can't hear myself. So. Okay, we're back to green.
Alright. What else does we has? We are starting to hit the bottom of the bucket. One thing I would like to actually point out, Vol pointed this to me yesterday. Anthem. Their Christmas event's still going.
Yeah, they extended it through February.
Yeah. Why?
Because they have nobody on the dev team doing anything.
There you go.
The dev team has been sacked or redistributed to other areas of the company.
I really feel sorry for the people who are actually looking forward to Anthem.
Vol was always sketchy on Anthem.
I
saw the announcement. I saw the announcement, and I was more open to the idea of what it could do when we first saw it announced, and I remember just writing it off with the first gameplay trailer.
Yeah, because that was unbelievably embarrassing more than anything else. Like, it was paid actors pretending to be gamers.
Yeah. That game was never meant to be.
That was never going to be.
That game, BioWare had no idea what they even wanted to make. They were just told to make a Destiny clone.
Yeah, heading that project to BioWare of all people was their first mistake.
Understanding your employees' strengths is a thing you should do as their boss, EA.
Yes.
Don't give the story guys the action RPG.
This should be common sense.
maybe you give the action RPG to the Doom guys.
That would be what you do.
But that would make sense.
Also, that's Bethesda, but, whatever.
Well, they're contracted by Bethesda. They're not employees of Bethesda.
Bring id on that project, though, and yeah, you'd get some really good gunplay out of it. So, yeah, Anthem was just... It was, even from its very first unveiling, it was destined to be a flop. And I don't think even BioWare or EA know what to do with it at this point.
Yeah, it's just kind of this tumor that's going to sit out there and not do anything.
Yeah. Oh, it is bad veggie game, yo.
Yeah, it was contracted by Bethesda.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, you did have that big re-release of Destiny 2. And that is done really well.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely no reason to buy Destiny Anthem.
Yeah, and Destiny 2 was a clear case of the developers want to take the game in the right direction. They know what they want to do to at least make it a better game. They know the mistakes they have to fix, but the publisher is in the way.
Yeah.
Like, the publisher in this case just has gotten in the way.
Yeah. Well, that and just... For Anthem, it was endless bad decisions.
Well, that was also the publisher getting in the way. They just got in the way at the start, and it crippled the project instead of getting it off to a slow start.
Yeah. So the thing was dead on arrival before it was even first conceptualized, really. Because they built an engine and before they even built a game concept.
Yeah, they had the engine, they had the tools, they didn't know how to use the tools because the guy that knew how to use the physics engine was in another department, and EA kept him tied up and busy doing other stuff, and didn't ship him down to their office until it was almost too late. The story, the expose on what happened is absolutely fascinating at just how incompetent EA is. But no, Activision shot Destiny in the leg, EA shot Anthem in the head.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't... Like, Destiny has been saved, and there's a lot of fun to be had in there if you're so inclined for that sort of thing.
Yeah, they're moving in the right direction, at least. I won't say it's saved yet, but they're moving in the direction they need to be moving for that game.
Yeah, they're making all the right noises. But
the last X-Pac was good relative to what Destiny has put out before.
Can we have the comic relief character back, please? He's the only character people actually liked.
Why did you kill Nathan Fillion?
Yeah.
He was the only character that people liked.
Nobody else any of the other characters because they're a bunch of sour grumps.
Cade Six was the only character I could have told you the name of until he died.
Yeah. And that's because he's kind of a big, goofy idiot.
Well, he's your quirky one-liner happy Dante type.
Yeah.
Because that's what he is. He's a robot version of Dante's personality, except not as cool.
Pretty much.
And
anyway, so that's just a writing quibble.
Well, it's a thing, though.
Yeah.
This is another thing a lot of modern day games, if we bring this full circle back to the start of the show, that modern game companies just don't get.
Don't kill off the character that people like.
Well, but they don't understand what cool is.
They're still stuck in the radical dude mindset.
Well, Dante's radical dude, but Dante is cool because Dante's a goofball.
Yep.
Dante when he does mess up, he still manages to make it look cool, but he still messes up. He's not a Mary Sue, and he's not a whiny crybaby about everything. He's not so emo, whiny, crawling in my skin. He's wacky wahoo pizza man.
Wacky wahoo pizza man. We got crawling in my skin, Dante, and it was terrible.
But just the thing I've noticed with modern AAA games, they do not understand that type of cool.
Yeah.
They don't even understand that. Yeah, this is something Itsuno just gets, is he knows how to make different types of cool characters. And the modern games industry just has a problem with cool characters. They cannot do anything other than what they think the current generation likes, or what they think cool was in the 90s.
Yeah, and it wasn't cool then either.
Yeah, and these two types of cool are not cool. Nobody actually gravitates to either of those type of cool characters.
Yeah, so you ultimately end up with
gravitate.
Sonic or Edgelords.
I've heard Nero and Dante being described as skater and surfer cool, respectively.
Mm.
Or Dante is the surfer in this analogy.
Yeah.
And because Itsuno just gets it. He knows that what cool is. When he can do different types of cool. And it's just, this is a thing. I can't tell you any characters in most AAA games. Any new characters they introduce. I forget their names a week after I play the game.
Yep.
And because Cade 6 emulated that, that Wacky Wahoo Pizza Man style, he was at least memorable because he was a cool character, even if he did crib all his best bits straight from Dante.
Yeah, here's a hint. Cool characters can fail. Let your characters fail.
Let them have fun while they fail, though.
Yes.
Everything isn't crawling in my skin.
Like, let the characters laugh at themselves, or at the very least try and goofily hide or conceal their mistakes.
Yeah. Like, Dante sneezing when he finishes beating up the demons in his store, and he does the really cool pull shot, and he shoots the billiard balls so they bounce all over his store, and he takes out all the intro demons after he beats the first boss, and then he sneezes, and his whole store falls down because he went too ham.
So much ham.
Like, it's just a way you do that. Or he's trying to show off the lady by surfing on the rocket, and he gets eaten by the sky whale.
Yeah.
Like, this is how you do cool. And still make the character fallible and human.
Yeah. Like, nobody wants, the Mary Sue. Nobody wants the Edgelord. I mean, okay, both characters can work, but we've gotten too much of them.
Yeah, just give us a Michael Jackson dance once in a while.
Yeah, something silly. Something fun.
You gotta add some energy to your characters. The cool interpretation of cool I see in AAA nowadays is always very somber or very stoic.
Yes.
Or always perfect.
Yes. So somewhere between the Edgelord and the Mary Sue.
Yeah, and it's why Cade 6 was actually memorable, because he wasn't any of those things. He was a goofball.
Yeah, like he was a good marksman. But
that was it.
That was it. He wasn't particularly bright.
He was mostly just a catchphrase machine.
Yeah. But he also wasn't afraid to laugh at himself. And
he was a robot.
He was a robot. Although, I think in the Destiny universe, they're technically considered humans. I don't know.
They're humans that had their brain souls transplanted into robot bodies.
Yeah, that never goes well, though. Well, actually, it seems to have in this case.
Yeah, he's missing. Yeah, so that's the only big misstep I think they made with the Forsaken expansion, was they killed the only character people actually knew the name of.
Yes. All right. Dewey has another news.
Not really. I put the Cliffy B thing in there because it was funny, but it's kind of just padding.
It is kind of padding a little bit.
It also doesn't take into account the fact that, he might be right, but he's right for the wrong reasons.
This is Cliffy B. That's kind of his thing.
Yeah, it is Cliffy B. So, I think we'll table that one. Basically, he's complaining that his woke bonanza of, what was that game called? Lawbreakers, blew up in his face and didn't make any money.
Because it was bad.
Yeah, but the thing is, he thinks that it's because he got too much politics in there. The reality is that the game was trash and it was in an oversaturated market. But he's just looking for something else to blame. So not only is he going to be wrong, but he's going to be eaten alive by his own side for being wrong in the wrong way.
Yeah. It's
So yeah, Vol's back.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Welcome back.
How was the movies?
Movie was great. I enjoyed it very much. It's very it's completely incomprehensible without having seen the previous two seasons. Like it is basically the next episode, except it's a really long episode.
Okay, so it assumes you're already caught up and just dive straight in.
Yeah, there's lots of references to previous stuff that happened that just would make no sense to a viewer who hadn't seen the previous 2 seasons. It's very much built on that.
Yeah, admittedly, a lot of the stuff that happens in Konosuba doesn't make a whole lot of sense, even if you know what they're on about.
Well, I mean, that's true. That's true. There's no denying that. But there are a lot of gags that sort of require you to know how this went last time, type of thing.
Yes.
Which is invariably not great. But I felt like it was a decent movie, and I think that people who just watch the anime would enjoy it as like a next episode. But I felt personally that it was weaker than the book.
Okay.
I think it's more about the choices than about the change in medium, I think. Sometimes a movie is weaker than a book simply because a book can take more time. But I feel like the movie abbreviated some things that I thought were important and bolted on some things that I didn't think were important. They keep, for the most part, a very faithful adaptation of the book, but they do a rather strange thing in that they try and add this extra layer to Yunyun and Megumin's relationship, where Yunyun supposedly in the past basically made a great sacrifice in order to preserve Megumin's ambition to study explosion magic.
Mm.
And that I don't think that exists in the books. And basically the net effect of that is to make Megumin look like a huge asshole for how she treats Yunyun throughout the series, whereas they had no such history in the past and in the book. And so it made sense that they're just rivals and they don't really understand each other because they're coming at things from different points of view. And instead, you've got, Yunyun made a great sacrifice for Megumin's sake, enabling her to live the life she lives now, and yet Megumin never shows a trace of appreciation. Like it doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it wasn't necessary in any way. But the flip side to that strange change is that where the book spends a not inconsiderable amount of time fleshing out what a sort of a sad case of a Crimson Demon Yunyun is and how much of a black sheep she is, most of that just gets left out. And so a lot of scenes don't make a lot of sense unless you've read the book, which involve her, because you can see the holes where they've cut things out. And the things that they've cut out, it doesn't make sense to have cut them out. And the part that they put in about Megumin and Yunyun's history together seems like a very crude attempt to paper over the hole by abstracting out Yunyun's character development to Megumin instead. And Yunyun basically goes way out of focus for most of the movie. It's a very strange decision. And then at the end of the movie, they bolt on what I think of as the anime movie scene, where for all anime movies that are movies of a series, which is where, for no apparent reason, everybody gets to go all out.
Oh, yeah, that scene.
So they added an extra scene on the end, basically an extra boss phase for the final boss, where characters who in the book were never even present show up, and everybody gets to wail on the boss. And then it resolves in a way which I felt like it was too close to the way they resolved the fight against the slime demon general in a lot of ways. That it was sort of like taking a joke a notch too far, because it's a sort of a running joke that Kazuma finds a way to get killed all the time, right?
Yeah.
And they just play that one out again, straight-facedly, as the solution to the final boss, whereas that was never necessary in the book. It didn't work like that. I don't think it did anyway. I could be wrong.
Kazuma didn't have to die again?
It didn't play out the way it did in this movie anyway. They added another weird... by the end of the movie, you're not really sure whether or not the demon general antagonist was actually all that bad, because it just seems like they got the short end of the stick, really.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than them being, a malevolent force. Because generally speaking, they end up being very what's the term, punch clock villains.
Yep.
Like they're attempting to invade the Crimson Demon Village because they are the Demon King's army and that's their job, and they go at it with all verve and vigor, and it basically all blows up in their face in the end. But I feel like they overhumanized the antagonist to an extent. Wow. They add extra points onto her personality and motivations which were not there in the book, which make her seem too human. But it all seems to be in the service of making Kazuma look even more of a cad than he normally does. So I can almost forgive that.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think it's a decent adaptation. I've seen much worse adaptations of books in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's very watchable. It flows on nicely from the series, but I do think that it is an inferior telling to the book. There are a couple of scenes that I think lost impact because of extra scenes that had been inserted ahead of them, which defused some of their emotional impact and that sort of thing, which weren't in the book and were purposefully not in the book. Like throughout the entire book, there's sort of like a haze hanging over Megumin where she feels insecure being back home because she's basically a failure amongst her people because she knows exactly one spell, and that's really, really downplayed. So the climactic scene at the end where she gets reassurance from Kazuma that she's fine the way she is, it doesn't work because she's been already vindicated through the process of inserting an extra big fight at the end, which didn't happen before. Because she has this big scene where she gets to show off, and then suddenly she's insecure again in the next scene.
Yeah.
So that decision doesn't make sense to do that, and it's all in aid of putting in, the shonen anime movie fight scene at the end, which didn't need to be there.
Considering the cast of characters, that sort of thing is just asking for more trouble, honestly.
Like the scene, I felt like the scene in the book at the end of this arc was very touching between Kazuma and Megumin, and it just feels like, needless insecurity on Megumin's part in the movie. It just doesn't work as well. But overall, I enjoyed it, and it got a lot of laughs out of the cinema. I lucked out into an incredible seat where I was exactly halfway. My level was exactly halfway up the screen and halfway across the screen, so perfect seat. But yeah, and I enjoyed it very much. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of criticisms because I've read the book like 3 or 4 times and I know it quite well. So I think that it was a good movie. It's just I don't think it was all it could be. I don't know if you could do it exactly the way the book did it on the screen or not. But that's a moot point now. They've done the adaptation that they're going to do, and it was a reasonable adaptation. Most of the really funny scenes are kept intact. I feel like as a choice to make into a movie, it was the right length, but the book benefits a lot from having more of Kazuma's internal monologue than the movie allows, because it's just a facet of the animated medium is that you can't let them prattle on too much internally unless it's like, I don't know, Bakemonogatari or something. But you can't let people prattle on internally too much because it'll waste a lot of screen time with nothing going on. But considering the story arc in question centers very much on Megumin's personal anxieties and Kazuma trying to decide whether or not he actually has feelings for Megumin or not when he's never even considered the prospect because he's just that hormonal. Yeah, I don't know. There are basically what I'm saying. The gist is there are some rough edges, but it's a good watch.
All right, sounds fun either way. You get to see more of Kazuma being Kazuma and Aqua being generally terrible, I suppose.
Aqua manages to make herself useful more often than hazardous in the course of this movie.
This sounds like an imbalance in the universe.
I mean, it is Megumin's movie. It doesn't focus on Aqua. Where Aqua eventually does get an arc of her own in the books, and she causes no end of havoc in the process and nearly manages to destroy the economy of the town.
That sounds more like it.
She's more or less a side character in this one, and the sort of like I feel like she's another character that got unbalanced by the extra fight scene at the end because she gets to basically pump Kazuma's stats and make herself useful and doesn't have an offsetting complete failure to carry out her intentions. So
all right. And with that, actually, we've come in just in time for us to approach the end of the show. Because, yay, I gotta work.
At least it wasn't because of daylight savings time that one of us got here late like last time.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a thing.
I knew it was daylight savings time too, but for some reason I was thinking it was going in the other direction.
Stupid daylight savings. Stop having a daylight savings.
Agreed.
All right. Anything else before we wrap up then?
No, not that I can think of. We hit on everything pretty well.
Yep, we had a generally positive show.
It was a fairly positive show, all things considered. This is not normal and feels weird.
Yeah, what's wrong here? What have we done?
We don't do happy on the show.
Admittedly, we did spin angry into something happy.
Well, we just turned a discussion about why Warcraft 3 bombed into how to do it better with better companies.
Yes, and how not to be a complete monster.
Yeah. So, yep, that's a thing, I guess. Trying to think of if there's anything we missed. I feel like there was something I wanted to bring up, but I'm completely brain farting on it, and it's bugging the crap out of me.
Dear. So that's alright. Maybe we'll bring it up next week then, if you can actually remember what it was.
Yeah, it's on the tip of my brain. But it's not coming out. Alright, folks. I think we will call it there.
Alright.
Closing comments, go.
I don't want to work anymore.
Nor do I.
Alright, folks. We will see you all next week.
I do see some irony of actually sitting down and playing a video game about cleaning up.
If any of you have ideas on how we can make it big as YouTube internet stars so we don't have to work properly anymore, send us email at noexcusesvgw@gmail.com.
The caveat being we don't have stupid haircuts and we don't need to say things like, yeah, boy.
Yeah, no hip slang.
Ugh.
We are not hip with the kids.
We are not.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.